Trump routinely attacks America's friends and foes alike, but never the Russians. Not only has he refused since the presidential campaign to criticize Russia's 2014 annexation of Crimea, on Thursday, as you just heard, Trump aboard Air Force One refused to rule out recognizing Russia's annexation of the Crimean Peninsula. We also learned this week that during a meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron, Trump called for France to leave the European Union, a move that would surely please Russia's dictator, Vladimir Putin. And Trump has continued to criticize NATO, a move right out of Putin's playbook. So why does Trump's foreign policy so often look like it best serves Russia and not the United States? Joining me now is Malcolm Nance, author of the new book, The Plot to Destroy Democracy. Malcolm, thank you for being here. Congratulations on the new book, a good update to The Plot to Hack America, which was the first book where we started talking.
Sure.
The Atlantic quoted a former U.S. ambassador to Poland on why Europe is particularly concerned about this upcoming Trump-Putin summit. I'll read a little bit of that. Europeans in general are apprehensive not because they fear an American president dealing with Russia in general, but they fear this particular president dealing with Russia when they don't know his strategic framework. Have you been able to discern in doing this book, what is Donald Trump's strategic framework? Why does he want to meet with Putin?
Well, it's very simple, and I'll be very honest. Donald Trump's strategic framework is a framework that was created by the Russians for Donald Trump and was presented to him at a meeting in Moscow in November 2013 when he had a 2-hour sit-down at the Nobu restaurant with the 12 richest oligarchs of Russia. And when Trump came out of that meeting, that's when he started his, reviewing very seriously his presidential run. By January 2014, we would have Russian apparatchiks would know well before people in the United States. But more importantly, Russia has a information warfare technique in which they use people who are of influence to create a perception bubble around you so that you are given their perception of the world. And no matter what you do, go right, go left, make whatever decision, you are making decisions within their framework. And Donald Trump adopted their framework very early on, came out of that meeting spouting about NATO is obsolete, the European Union should be broken up, the transatlantic alliance that we fought World War II for, that we have had since 1945, should be realigned and should be taken out of play, and technically an axis created between Moscow, Washington, and Europe. And that's why he says these things, and they seem confusing to us. But if you put it in the perspective of Moscow, he is clearly their asset. He is enunciating their point of view.
In your view, and in your research, Malcolm, does Donald Trump know that he's spouting Putin's line, and is he doing it deliberately, or is he being duped into doing it?
No, he believes it. I think, Trump is a very interesting character because one thing that we've learned about Donald Trump is that when he gets around people that he's comfortable with, he immediately picks up their verbiage, their terminology. It happened with Kim Jong-un. One day he goes in and we're doing NATO, we're doing exercises in South Korea. The next day we're doing provocative war games. I mean, he picks these things up. So this is the only thing that explains why Trump, since 2015, when he came onto the campaign, was using the exact same terms and beliefs, really, of the Russian Federation. This man is clearly in debt to Moscow in some way. I'll leave it up to Robert Mueller to figure out what the terms and circumstances of that debt is, but he is not working in the interest of the United States. No president of the United States would ever say that NATO was obsolete.
Right.
No president of the United States would ever say that we should consider NATO as something that should be dismantled since we created it.
Yeah, or that France should leave the European Union, and he'd give inducements to do that. Very quickly, before we lose time with you, Malcolm, it looks like the North Korea deal has gone south. Donald Trump claimed there was no more nuclear threat. It looks like they are still continuing to enhance. We now also know that Brexit was much more influenced by Russia than we thought, and might have even created a back channel between Nigel Farage and Trump. Do you address those things in the book as well?
Well, I certainly address the Brexit, because what I'm trying to lay out in this book is I'm showing you the strategic plan that Moscow had to re-engineer European democracies and to destroy all of the structures which were keeping Europe together and European conservatism, which they've completely co-opted. The United States is now a partner in the destruction of Western democracy and the Atlantic Alliance. And North Korea, well, we could all have predicted North Korea was going to cheat on this deal. They know how to talk to Trump. All they had to do was smother him with hugs and kisses.
Flatter him.
And they would get their nuclear weapons.
This is the book. It is The Plot to Destroy America. Malcolm Nance has been with us. Is it 2 years now, Malcolm, we've been doing this? Something like that.
July 25th.
We'll just keep doing it. See you next week. Malcolm Nance, thank you very much. Really appreciate you. More AM Joy after the break, including